Hi, everybody. I want to revisit a topic today that most people have touched upon at one time or another, and that is manifesting. Manifesting. Because I think it's been deeply misunderstood by many, including by myself. I actually think we understand this topic, like everything else, of course, in accordance with our level of evolution and how much we have integrated, how much shadow work we've done, all of that. So, hello. Yeah, I want to revisit this topic of manifesting. You know, it's often been presented as get what you want, right? Manifest that shit, right? Think hard enough, visualize hard enough, feel hard enough, and you'll get what you want. Right? That's the basis for a lot of the manifesting work and teaching on manifesting that you see out there. But for me, this whole model is still often really based in lack, in the perception of lack. There is this spell of incompleteness, you know, this spell of wanting that we find ourselves in. And we have to pay attention to the word want in the first place. You know, in my old days, when I was doing a lot of Shakespeare, that word wanting was understood as lacking, right? It was used more commonly to mean lacking, something is missing. And so when we say that we want something, we're saying that we lack it, that we're missing it, that we are without it, that we're in deficiency in some way. So when we say I want, we're maybe unknowingly affirming I do not have, first of all. And that's a subtle language spell, right? We have lots of language spells all around us. We need to pay attention to our words, to the origin of words, to the etymology, if we really want to understand what we're saying and how we are spelling, casting spells in our own lives by what we think, by what we say. So, you know, words matter, basically. They carry structure. They have structure, and they have an energetic impact. And they are part of the architecture of how we create the architecture of our field. So, you know, where traditional, if you want to call it that, manifesting often fails is because it's often coming from this fear of not having. It can come from a comparison or like a sense of urgency or identity deficiency, you know, this feeling like we're just not enough as we are and we need more things. We need something to complete our self-image so that we can feel okay about ourselves. You know, you can visualize abundance all day long, but if your nervous system is still broadcasting scarcity because you're in a fear place with yourself, it ain't gonna work, you know. And then you go, oh, well, that stuff, you know, doesn't work. Nothing I do matters anyway. No. What you do does matter. What you are is what matters. What you are broadcasting, casting in a broad way around yourself energetically it is determining everything. Right? That's universal lore. What manifesting actually is, from my perspective now, okay, because we're always in an evolutionary, you know, state. We're always evolving. The way that I understand it now is that true creation, right, the act of creating, because we are creator beings and there's nothing we can do about it. We're creating 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We are creating a reality around ourselves. Mostly people are doing it unconsciously because they're not aware of the tremendous power that they have that is actually creating reality. So true creation, conscious creation, is not, getting something that's missing. It is more like allowing some aspect of your wholeness to take form. Okay? Allowing some aspect of your wholeness, which you already are, to take form. So you understand that's a completely different starting point, a completely different perspective on manifesting than the one that is coming from lack, right? That's like, I need something, I want something, and it's out there and I got to get it, right? So I'm going to think really hard. I'm going to feel really hard. I'm going to make it happen. I got to bring that into myself. No, we are in our natural state already whole. We are whole. This is not just a nice idea. This is the reality of reality, right? We are one with the one sourced. We are already sourced, resourced, right? So we have access to everything. So we're just allowing some aspect of our wholeness that we may not be consciously in touch with, but which is to become part of what we can see, right? We're bringing it into evidence, into materiality, right? Some examples of this happening could be like love, okay? Love appearing in your life because love is awakening within you, right? When love is awakening within you, and if you are wanting, not lacking, but if you are desiring, and we'll talk about that word too, to see that manifestation of love relationship in your life, well, if you don't have it in here, it ain't going to happen out there, okay? As within, so without, as above, so below. These are the basic laws, right? Love appears because love has awakened within you. It is a part of your wholeness, a part of your totality that is now expressing in a way that you can see it in matter, right? And the same goes for opportunity, for example, appearing because now your gifts are mobilized, right? You're aware of who you are. You are stepping into, standing in your mission. Home appearing because a sense of belonging has ripened in you, that you are at home in yourself, right? And money, of course, that's the one that everybody wants, right? Money flowing because you are embodying your value now. You're no longer in doubt of your value, right? So anything that we want to call forth, we're calling forth from within ourselves, really. And, the outer world is just reflecting that, our readiness, our inner readiness. And this is much more mature way of understanding what manifesting is, rather than wishing for something and receiving it, right? Oh, I hope I get it, right? God, I hope I get it. So materialization of something is like, it's a mirror. What comes toward us is often a mirror of what has become coherent within us. And that goes for the shadow side too. We're very often manifesting, in quotes, manifesting things that we say we don't want, right? We say that consciously, well, I don't want that. Why would I manifest that? Well, because something inside of us is reflecting, is creating that reflection, and it's for the purposes of education, right? It is so that we can learn what energies we are holding within ourselves. Right? And how, and when we become aware of the energies that we're holding within ourselves, if there's stuff that's unaligned, which of course we have in all of us, then we can heal that stuff, right? It has to present itself to our awareness so that we can become cognizant of it, and we can consciously heal whatever that is out of alignment, right? This is why we have these patterns that recur over and over again until we actually see what's going on in us that is being reflected by the mirror of reality, right? So this is not punishment. And when you get something that you want, it's not a reward either. That would be, a polarized understanding. It's a reflection. That's neutral. It really is neutral. It truly is. Reality is relational that way, right? We are in a relationship with the mirror of reality when we choose to be, right? And that's when you are really taking responsibility for your life and you're not blaming the circumstances or the situation or the world or the matrix or the, somebody else for what's going on with you. What we see is always a reflection of our own inner world. And, that's the basic principle of Ho'oponopono, right? If you practice Ho'oponopono, you must claim everything that appears in your reality as part of you. And that is not any kind of judgment one way or the other, if it's good or if it's bad. It is neutral. It means I cannot be aware, it is not possible for me to be conscious of anything that is not already within me. That is just the way that it works, right? So if I'm seeing a war out there in the world, I'm going to take responsibility own the part of me that is in conflict somewhere, right? It cannot appear in my awareness. It cannot appear within my consciousness if it is not a part of me somehow. And that is not to put us into any kind of blame or judgment of ourselves. It is a neutral awareness of everything that I observe. Everything that comes into the field of my awareness is mine. It belongs to me. And, when you really accept that, then your capacity to hold contradiction, to hold the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, really increases, and you are no longer in a state of judgment about things. You are observing the vastness of your own being, and you then, go after the things that are in shadow that you were afraid to face. You go in and you heal that, you embrace that, you accept it, so that it's no longer sequestered inside your energy field, so that you have to experience it in some way out there as a problem. Right? That's a little bit of a tangent, but it's obviously related. When something is not arriving that you are wanting, it may not mean failure. It may mean something deeper in you is still integrating. Are you really, really ready to receive that love relationship? Are you fully loving yourself? Are you fully in love with yourself? Are you okay if you don't get that? That thing that you really deeply want, are you still okay with not receiving that? Right? So there is this feeling of, wow, it would increase my sense of completeness to experience this in my life. But if it doesn't happen, I'm still going to be okay. I'm going to be more than okay. I'm going to be fine, right? Because I'm already complete. I'm acknowledging that that everything emerges from my own completeness. And all I can do is experience. That's it, right? So we can stop asking, well, how do I get it? And being in this acquisitive mindset, instead we can ask deeper questions about, well, why am I feeling this impulse to manifest a certain thing in my life, right? What quality does this represent that I would like to experience more of? Where does this already live within me? Where, if I feel like I don't have this and I'm lacking this, I am in want of, I am lacking, I am deficient in, well, then that's like saying, well, it doesn't exist in me. Well, if it doesn't exist in you, then you can't possibly materialize it in your reality. It already is there, right? We just proved that. So where does this quality, this feeling, the essence of this already live within me? And can I get in touch with that feeling? Can I feel as if it is within me already mine? Another good question to ask is, what am I becoming through the desire itself? You know, what am I becoming through this desire, right? So the word desire, desire, comes from of the Father, okay, but it doesn't mean of the Father, masculine, Father God, right? It's from the progenitor, the genesis of our being, right? It is from the creative impulse itself. That is what desire is. It is the creative impulse. We are creator beings. We can't help it. So the desire is coming from our nature as creators. So there's nothing wrong with it, right? We don't judge what it is. We're just curious about it. Where is this coming from within me? What quality does it represent that I want to experience more of? Where does it already live within me? And what am I becoming? How is it enriching me just to have this desire, right? So, for example, if you want partnership, then maybe the deeper calling from within is about intimacy, right? It is about softness or devotion, right? How can you feel for those energies already within you? Because they must already be within you, or you could not experience the desire, right? For more of that, for a richer experience of that, for, a reflection of that. Where can you enhance the feeling of intimacy within yourself, right? Often that is just about deep acceptance and going after any places that you're still rejecting yourself, judging yourself, ashamed of something, partitioning something away from the rest of you, that feeling into what the deeper root of a desire is can be very powerful. If it's about money, right? Maybe the deeper call, maybe it's not really about money, maybe it's about freedom or expression or flow and circulation, energy moving. You can feel into the times that you have felt really rich, and I bet you 9 times out of 10, the times that people feel really rich have nothing to do with money. When we live in a world without money, which could happen in our lifetime, or at least a different system of money, we'll have a much deeper understanding of what that actually is. It's just everything has been put on money, as the God. And so, we think of it in those terms, but we're really looking for freedom. We're looking for expression, the ability to do what you want, right? And so we can connect with that feeling and where it lives inside us already, and who we are becoming by having that desire. We're becoming somebody who wants to, who desires greater freedom, greater expression, greater soul expression. That's what that's really about, right? And if you want success, whatever that means to you, maybe the deeper call is about visibility or contribution or embodiment. So that is asking you to step into a truer, more authentic version of yourself that isn't afraid to be seen, right? That isn't subtly pushing that away, that desires to contribute rather than to serve, right? I want to move beyond this duality of service to self, service to others. Like it's bad to be in service to self, it is good to be in service to others. That is just another duality, and we've got to move beyond that. It's not about service. It is we are not in service. We are here to contribute. That's a much different energy, and you can feel it in your body if you pay attention, right? Or a need to embody something more fully. And all we can embody is what we are, all we can do is more fully embody who we are, right? So that may be at the root of a desire for success, right? The form is often the costume, right? And sometimes we get fixated on a form to the detriment of the essence, right? And the essence is the real invitation that the soul is calling for. So if we want to work with creation in a practical way, it's just to have some clear tools here, right? Instead of I want, all right, starting there, we can change the words, right? Because again, words have energy. They cast spells. They are creative, and they can work against us if we're not using language consciously. Instead of I want, try something like I am opening to, or I am ready for. I'm welcoming the embodiment of, or I choose to align with. There are other creative ways that, you know how you can tell whether a word is serving you or not, is how it feels when you say it, right? Do you feel more expansive, more empowered, or do you feel a sense of, like longing or craving that feels weakening, right? Also, let's not be a slave to words. If you have processed a word, like, words like understand, in the sovereignty communities, people are very aware of the word understand, and very often choose to say inner stand, right? Because we have inner standing. If you say understand, it's like you're standing under, you're allowing yourself to be underneath, to be oppressed or something like that. Okay, it's all very well and good, but I'm going to use the word understand sometimes. I'm not always going to use the word understand, right? Because no word ultimately is going to have a power over me once I have understood the word. I said it, right? Once I have metabolized the energy of that word, right? Nothing is more powerful than consciousness, all right? Just a little sidebar. So instead of, choose your words carefully and choose words that feel like you are simply ready for the experience of something that is already within you, right? And feel the essence now, right? It's not about pretending that you already have the thing, but feeling the sense of safety, of nervous system regulation, right? When you're in nervous system regulation, means you feel safe, you feel calm, you feel a sense of joy that arises from within. It's not elicited by something outside yourself, right? It just is a kind of bubbling up from within. You feel the essence of whatever it is you want, of whatever it is you desire, would love to experience more of. When you boil it down to its essence, it's always going to have to do something to do with expression, with love, with freedom, with dignity, with joy, with safety and peace, right? It always boils down to a quality, a higher quality that is actually innate to human beings when we are in our natural state, right? We just want to experience more of what we already are. We want to have a new flavor of that experience, and it somehow, doing that enriches our completeness, our wholeness. It's a paradox, it's a mystery. But these are states that we're talking about. So we become a match to anything that it comes into our field through embodiment, right? And so when we are unconsciously embodying our fear, our anxiety, our unresolved anger, or negative emotions that we haven't processed yet, that's when we tend to attract experiences that are going to help us metabolize those energies within ourselves. Once we recognize that these things are called forth from within, right? And we're not making a big drama out of it anymore, or being like, oh, I'm terrible, I blame myself, right? Or blaming other people. Once we get over that drama and we're like, okay, well, whatever this is, I'm going to take responsibility for it. That's not blame, right? I'm going to take responsibility for it. Let me look within and see where in me is something that is a match vibrationally to this experience, and let me resolve it. It's always going to be, there's always going to be something that we can work with, okay? But to embody the true qualities, you know, the where our most aligned desires for manifestation come from, well, we can embody those qualities through simplifying our life, through regulating our nervous system, through speaking truth, honoring our gifts, circulating generosity, right? All of those simple things, you know, creation follows alignment more than it follows effort. If you feel like it's a lot of hard work to manifest what you want, well, check with yourself, check with your energy. Like, does this feel like this is, you know, like I'm slogging away at this? Because creation, aligned creation follows our alignment, right? Alignment with integrity, with truth, with our soul expression, you know, what the soul desires more than anything else. The mature relationship with desire is not the enemy. It's information. We can treat it as information. It's showing us where life wants to move, right? Where we want more circulation within ourselves, where expansion is calling us, where a quality that is already there is seeking greater expression. Okay, that's what desire is. And if a desire feels unhealthy, somehow, like, you know, it's a craving, it feels addictive or something like that, well, that's something to pay attention to, but we still follow it back to its roots in the same way, right? You know, if you're in an unhealthy situation, an unhealthy relationship that feels addictive, toxic, or whatever, and you just never feel satisfied, you're always in that craving, wanting place, well, your energy's being depleted. You're being looshed in that situation, right? So you have to recognize that. I can speak from my own experience. But if you dig down deep inside yourself, you'll find at the root of this even unhealthy or toxic desire the same beautiful qualities, and they will find expression in a way that is healthy, right? When you do your inner work, when you do your shadow work, the same desire that called forth a distorted expression in the past because you hadn't yet metabolized that shadow will call forth a more balanced expression when you have accepted yourself fully, right? So, you know, these desires are showing us where a quality wants to find greater expression. And if we clutch onto the form, then sometimes we can miss the essence, right? And sometimes you impose a form on something and you do everything you can to make that form appear in your life, and you realize that you've missed the essence, and now you're saddled with a form that, you know, sometimes when we're pushing from an ego place, or, you know, an egoic, unresolved egoic place, from a need to prove something, you know, all of that is ego energy, right? Then we can get what we want, right? But it's going to have consequences that we didn't plan on. Not a problem. It happens all the time. It's happened to me many, many times, right? That's okay. That's something to track, something to observe. So that's why we don't want to get hung up on the form. We want to focus on the essence. What is it that I want to feel? If getting that thing, how will I feel when I get it? Okay, if we're going to speak in raw terms. Well, I'll feel fulfilled. I'll feel satisfied. I'll feel important. I'll feel, okay. And then ask, well, why? Why do I need to feel important? Why do I need to feel satisfied? Why do I, you know, and if you keep following it down, you'll follow it down to the root of, again, an essential desire, right? Maybe the real desire is connection, right? Maybe the real desire was peace, right? But you ended up focused on a form that stole your peace. I'm laughing because, you know, I fell into all the traps, and I'm just remembering how many times I fell into my own traps. So, maybe manifesting is not about getting what you want. Maybe it's about becoming so coherent within yourself that what belongs with you can find you just naturally, right? And maybe what we're truly seeking has been waiting for the version of us that can receive it, the essence of it. The world is not withholding your life. The universe is waiting for our wholeness, if you will, right? Once we come from the place of wholeness, right? And I always do this shape with my fingers because I'm feeling that toroidal field, which is self-generating and self-sustaining, which is at the core of our being, right? This toroidal field is being generated by where the source meets us, literally. It's amazing, right? It's through this portal of your heart, soul, essence. That is the mouth of the river, right? That is where everything is being generated. That is where you are connected to everything in the infinite field. So when you want to manifest something, ask yourself, what is the deep desire? Where is it coming from? What is the essence that I want to experience more of? And I may see it taking this form or this form or this form, but feeling into that desire at the source of your being, recognizing that if you are feeling a desire for more of that, it is because it is already within you and it is otherwise impossible to feel, right? So you already have that quality. You may just not be fully aware of it. And how can you nurture your experience of that essential quality within yourself so that it will be reflected in some way in your outer life? That's the crux of it for me. I'd be curious to hear what you guys experience it as. But I feel like, this idea of manifesting has been really kind of hackneyed and deformed in lots of instant gratification, new age clickbait. And I just want to remind us and remind myself that it's a totally natural process that is happening continuously all the time from our creative nature as human beings, that we already have everything that we could ever possibly desire within ourselves. And the next time you feel an impulse to go out and try to get something, to make something happen in the world because you're feeling scared or desperate or frustrated or whatever, cool your jets for a second and come back and find that quality within yourself first. Keep nurturing that inwardly, because this is where all of the stuff is happening, everybody. It's happening within ourselves. For better or for worse, right? It's happening within ourselves. So all transformation occurs from within, and then it appears without. Everything is information. It's feedback. It's a feedback system, okay? Thank you for your presence. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your openness. And I hope this was helpful. I'll see you next time.